Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Minister, we were still on the information note in exhibit at page 371, file 2 of the exhibit file. Do you still have that in front of you?
Correct.
Thanks.
That's 371. Thank you.
371, Chair. Thank you. That's where it starts. I want us to go further on. You recall that we noted that this task team was established, as page 372 tells us, 4.1.2. The deployment is from 9th of December 2024 to the 28th of February 2025 at the bottom of 372.
Correct.
Item 4.1.2.
Correct.
If we go forward to page 379. At page 379, that's another information note that starts at 378. This particular information note, if you go to page 380, is dated February 26, 2025. And that you recall that in the previous document we read, the lifespan of this task team was until the 28th of February 2025. So the information note starting at 378 tells us at 380 that the lifespan tells us that this document was created 2 days before that task team was due to be dissolved. Do you note that?
Yes, sir.
And I want specifically to refer you then to page 379 of that same document, item 3.3. It says the current team consists of 2 detectives, 3 information collectors, 4 combat members, and 1 support. At item 4, there are recommendations as at February 2025. And it reads, this office recommends the following. 4.1.1, the current team to be beefed up, in parentheses, total of 19 members, to cover Butterworth, Ngobo, Kofimvaba, Mtata, and Zolo. The team will be placed in Butterworth. 4.1.2, additional members required are as follows: 2 information collectors, 2 detectives, 4 NIU operators. So its original lifespan was for 3 months, effectively, and at the end of that 3 months, clearly from this information, second information note, its lifespan was extended once again. And not only extended, the team was beefed up. And by adding members from other different units into this team, the specific team. You see that, you accept that?
Yes, correct.
And it is safe to assume that that decision was taken because this team was, due to the efficacy of this team. Would that be a fair conclusion?
Yes.
Before we broke for tea, I was anxious to make one thing clear with you, that I and I don't think anyone within the commission or reading these documents would question the wisdom of establishing that test team. And that wisdom is demonstrated by the documents themselves. In a period of 3 months since the establishment of this task team, as page 371 tells us, that when the team under the leadership of Major General Zulu, I would say, got onto the ground to work and deliver on their mandate, at item 2.2, General Zulu, it states the following. Major General Zulu interviewed the families and survivors and was able to draw 20 dockets related to murders and extortion. She discovered that little to nothing was done on the dockets. The first docket she worked on, she was able to arrest the suspect linked with more than 10 murders and extortion. The suspects were arrested at the Mall of Africa in Midrand. At 2.3, it notes, there is currently a breakthrough on other dockets, but need further investigation and linkages. Major General Zulu believes that she can end taxi violence and extortion in the two affected areas through arresting with convictions of the taxi bosses linked to the mentioned crimes. See where I'm reading, Minister?
Yeah. Yes.
The task team was extended, page 378, and broadened to beyond Butterworth to include Komani, Mtata, Tofimvaba, and others listed at 2.3. The following is noted, and I read at 2.4. Survivors and victims started to come out and provided information on the case, and trust was built. 99% of dockets were never investigated. Do you see that?
Yes.
And we must accept that that happens in an environment where there's a murder and robbery unit.
Yes.
And that demonstrates, I'd say, the efficacy of this particular, the notion of a task team, and this one in particular.
Yes.
And it is for that reason I put to you that it cannot be in any SAPS operation that the establishment of a task team, the notion of establishing a task team, can be rejected in favor of an organogram. It cannot be. Do you have a comment to that?
Not at all. You would recall, commissioners, that the two are not mutually exclusive. The idea of specialized units in the organogram and continued monitoring of developments on the ground, the result of which may demand that you do something over and above what organogram specialized units are doing. It's not mutually exclusive. It can happen. You now have specialized units, but you need reinforcement because of the extent of the upheaval or the problem in a particular area. Then you reinforce. And I did say what General Zulu was, Major General Zulu was leading. It would be a combination of people from the NIU, from TRT, and they go there, or any other combat unit, and then they go and work there, and so on. So it's not mutually exclusive. What the difference between that and what we're talking about in PKTT is that they are not in KZN to reinforce murder and robbery units. They are there as a silo, a kind of semi-permanent, if I could use that. In principle, there's nothing wrong with them having been established, dealing with what they were dealing with. But what is at stake now is that does NPK-TT unit gets extended beyond 7 years while you now have murder and robbery, whose capacity you may not necessarily be using in its entirety, and then leading to coexistence. They are not there to reinforce and then go back, reinforce. They are kind of there sitting parallel with murder and robbery. That's the difference.
May I go back to the question Commissioner Baloyi asked you? And it's because you persist in the notion that they were there to reinforce murder and robbery.
Yes.
From the two information notes One, the first being at page 371 that we referred to. And the next that we have just gone through of February 25, starting at 378. When I read both documents, I don't come away with the conclusion that this task team was intended to reinforce anything. So I would like your guidance with reference to these documents.
Yes.
From where I can derive such an understanding.
Maybe before you answer, Minister, also have regard at page 378, that information note, have regard to paragraph 2.2, which says dockets were collected from Provincial Serious and Violent Crime Unit, and the team conducted further investigations. So have regard to that when you want to tell why this is different from the way the PKTT operates.
First, the precise question was, we don't read reinforcement here.
Yes.
And I did concede to Commissioner Baloy that it's a question of precision in terms of writing from where I sit more than any other thing. They could have added precision. No, they could have added that element of being precise that it's reinforcement.
Okay.
But it comes in this particular form. But the understanding should be that they were going there to reinforce. They were not going there to be a silo or on a, they were going there reinforce. That's why they look at the dockers, they find what they find, because they are meant to reinforce, to say, so where are you? Where are you? What are you struggling with? We are here for a few months. So let's work together and see how far. And that's one. And then on the other hand, PKTT was established exactly to do more or less. This is an example of what we are envisaging. And on the side of PKTT, it was established for 6 months and then leave once murder and robbery exists there. And then it took time, and they are there now, and were not implementing. And by the way, I should say, PKTT are not guilty for that. It's us at management level who have created the situation that is there. They are doing what police are telling them to do. So an impression shouldn't be that they are wrong in what they're doing, because they are being allowed by management to do what they're doing. So, but I'm just explaining what should be, as opposed to what the obtaining case is.
Minister, that paragraph 2.2 in 378 tells us that Major General Zulu's team conducted investigations. There's a list there. So they became a self-contained team. So she says, we collected dockets, and then the team conducted further investigations. They applied for Section 205. They got post-mortem reports, photo albums for crime scenes. They did that. They took witness statements. They traced suspects. They applied for J50s. They did firearm inspections. So they were not there to let murder and robbery or serious and violent crime to do their work while they are back up. They took the dockets and they conducted the investigations. We have understood, that's exactly, or at least let me say I have understood, that's exactly what the PKTT does. They got the dockets and they did exactly the stuff. So the distinction that you seem to be drawing, so that's the one thing. The second thing is the PKTT, you're right, was originally established for a period, kept getting extended, but exactly the same here. It was first established in December 2024. And this, which Advocate Sello is discussing with you, requests and grants an extension for a further period. So that task team's set up for a fixed period gets extension doesn't seem to be the anomaly here. It's not an anomaly. That is unique to the PKTT. Your own task team of 2024 December, in fact, conducts investigations in exactly the same way the PKTT was doing, and then it requests an extension, and it gets it. The difference you're seeking to draw is not apparent to me. In fact, there is no difference.
Commissioners, I would say from where I sit, there is a difference. We're talking about 7 years, consistent extensions. Well, with what I spoke about post 2022, but
Okay, let me
these are
try help. So
extensions.
the difference you're drawing is the one has been in existence for 7 years, not how they operate.
That's not, and how they, I'm still coming to that.
Okay.
7 years. And that side, it's 3 months, it's extension. The principle is the same, but practically it's different. They get there, they found out that there is serious and violent crimes within which there is murder and robbery, within which there is taxi. But their level of performance is as stated there. They take over their dockets, they find that there's this, they then pick up things and they start working in accordance with what is expected of police ordinary. In other words, if they were working the way, up to the level they were, they would have found all these things having been done. But there was precisely a complaint there because they were not performing well. I know the practical problems that were there.
But that's exactly how the PKTT came to be formed. There had been a task team, which is KZN based.
Correct.
Of the province, which was responsible for investigating these matters.
Correct.
And when the president intervened, it's because the work that was being done by whoever was dealing with matters there was not effective, and it was thought, let's form a task team. The PKTT was formed, but you responded exactly the same way in December to a problem in a different area. There's no difference in how they came about. There was policing happening in both jurisdictions, KZN and your Eastern Cape here. Policing was happening. Then there's a realization that it's not effective. The solution in KZN was the president formed an IMC, and that IMC resulted in a task team being formed. In this case of the Eastern Cape, you became aware of the failures of policing, and then you formed a task team. And that task team does investigations, takes the dockets, did investigations in the same way as the PKTT. So the foundation is exactly the same.
Correct.
Yes.
The principles are the same, but I'm saying there's a difference here, 7 years. The difference, again, is that there hasn't been action or existence of PKTT in line with the stats that I was shown, which show that political killings have gone down, but we're maintaining and so on. There doesn't seem to be strong assessments that are in consonant with this to allow the development of murder and robbery, whether for the worse or for the good. But we hold the view, a strong view that say that if you want to deal with violence in South Africa, especially in the 4 provinces, have something that is stable, that is sustainable. Don't have a team, a task team on a temporal basis, because they are from where they come from. from a station and from elsewhere. Whereas these ones are from units that exist, combat units. It's simple taking them from where they are. You take them different from people that you take from a station. So there are those kind of differences, but the principles, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner. So then your challenge with PKTT was the period for which it had been in existence. 7 years you deemed too long.
In part,
Yes, in part.
yes.
I'll accept
Agree.
that. Commissioner, are you aware of a task team called Operation
You-
Lock?
Ms. Sildo, you just called the minister commissioner.
Minister, I apologize. I've dealt with too many commissioners from EMPD, and please accept my apologies. Thank you. I wanted to establish, Minister, whether you are aware of a task team called Operation Lockdown / Thunder in Cape Town. Are you aware of that task team?
I am aware.
Are you aware of a task team called Emanguzi Cross Border in KZN?
I am aware.
Are you aware that both, as with the task team, have been in existence for 7 years and they continue to be in existence?
Yes, I am aware, but not exactly in that way. I'm aware of, for instance, existence of Manguzi, and from time to time they get withdrawn, as I heard a few months ago. But I'm aware of their existence.
Why does their long-term existence not be cause for concern for you, such that you issue a disbandment letter for those task teams similar to the PKTT one of the 31st of December 2024? I trust that there is a reason.
They are of concern. They are of concern. In the first place, well, there's a slight difference.
Yes.
Lockdown is a kind of an operation, again working in the same kind of principle. Let's say, for convenience, it's a task team, and so on. It is of concern. Let me indicate what the concern is about, and we were about to land on them to show that there's a concern, not because I'm now facing a commission, but because of the concerns that we were continuously, or grave concerns, not just concerns, getting in Cape Town, in the Western Cape, about violent situation there, indicating gaps in the huge gaps, if you look at their existence on one hand and levels of violence in that. It could be concluded that they haven't performed up to the level that is required. And I discussed this with National Commissioner on a number of occasions. At one point, we had a discussion on the phone for 1 hour. And I said I requested National Commissioner to deploy intelligence in Cape Town to check why there is consistent, seemingly growing violence in that, despite what efforts have been made there, and so on. So I am aware the concern is there. On the question of Mangus, there is a same concern that at one point when there is a flare-up, minister would go there and then they would seemingly work for a while. And I know that recently, maybe 3 or so months ago, I received reports from the ground that they had been withdrawn and criminal activities went up in that particular area. So there is a concern. We haven't really been as effective as we would need to be in terms of the demands of the people or expectations of the people of Mongoose. So both of them are of concern. But you couldn't do everything at the same time.
Why not? It impacts different places around the country. It's not like if you disestablished the operation lockdown in the Western Cape, that would further prejudice KZN. I don't understand why they could not be disestablished at the same time, because they are in two different regions, in two different provinces.
Well, what got us to attend to PKTT
Yes.
is different from what we are talking about. PKTT gets in the form of us looking at organizational structures through orientation as we came, and we've become aware of that and how it should have been dealt with in terms of the work study and all of that. While in the Western Cape one, it's in accordance with what I would regard as reinforcement of specialized units that are there, getting beefed up and so on. It's not to say there is no concern and so on. So in the PKTT issues are different from this in the sense that this one flows from the organizational structure studies to say we have this kind of a team. The intention was this and this and this, and that would have been determined by existence of newly established specialized units, which is not what applies in the Western Cape. And the concerns in the Western Cape are not structural, historically structural. It's just the way it's just performance based purely. So there are those differences.
Yes, thank you, Minister. I hope you have your statement close by.
Correct.
Yes, and I would like to refer you to page 60 of your statement. You touched on this, I think yesterday morning.
Yes.
And I would like to refer you to paragraph 180, and that's where you quote the report of General Masemola of the 22nd January 2025.
180.
180, paragraph 180 at page 60.
Oh, yes, I have it.
And I think you read part of that into
Yes.
the record.
Correct.
That quotation starts with General Masemola. I think it was in response to a parliamentary question.
No, it is taken from in the preliminary report.
Yes. Thank you for the correction. And the first sentence reads, the task team has undeniably achieved and far exceeded the purpose for which it was established. I'll stop there. Do you agree or you disagree with that statement?
I agree with the statement. And I'm cautious in doing so because of what the chair of the commission said yesterday in another context.
Okay.
Who said you go and disestablish via your directive, but you didn't know at that time that on the 22nd you would receive a report that was like this. I accepted that, but I knew that internally I did have this thing that when I wrote the directive, yes, I didn't have this report. I conceded that. But I did say that I am from KZN. I am in the environment that PKTT is in and SAPS are in relation to KZN. I'm aware of certain things. One of that is that political killings have since gone down, particularly from 2023 in KZN. And it was in that part. So it is in that context that I'm saying I agree with that statement that by and large they have achieved violence in relation to political killings has gone down, PKTT or NPKTT has been a factor among other factors, as I would have indicated. But I agree with the statement.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to my next point, and it's because you've done this a few times, I think all the witnesses that have appeared before the commission as an abbreviation called the task team PKTT. I note in your statement, and you just corrected yourself once again, you add an N before the PKTT. And I think yesterday in engagement with the chair, you explained that it's a national, the political killings task team. Where does the N come from? Regardless of where it was established or by whose instruction, is there a document perhaps I can turn to where I will see it referred to as the NPKTT, or it's only in your lexicon?
There are documents, not a document.
Okay.
If you read page 61.
Yes.
Of the same report that we are in, that conclusion of the National Commission.
Yes.
Paragraph 182. It says, what is evident from the disbandment report, or it's me who is writing NPKTT. No,
yes.
Roman figure 5 up there in the conclusion on the same page 61. National Commissioner says the current capacity of the National Task Team.
Yes.
This is the document that you are talking about. There are other various documents. There is a memorandum which was written a month after I took leave, I suppose, in August, written by Provincial Commissioner Mchunu. And before that, there's another document which had been written by Lieutenant General Khumalo. Both of them referred to this team as National Task Team.
Yes.
So it's actually in essence a national political killings task team, but people get shortcuts and PKTT, but it's interchangeably used. But it's not me who introduced the N.
Okay. I don't know if you heard the evidence of General Mkhwanazi and I think General Masimula. I speak under correction, whether he specifically dealt with this point. And beyond that, I think it was General Dimpane, but that was in a different context. It was at the ad hoc. But General Mkhwanazi made the point that the PKTT was one of 11 task teams that are funded from the national budget. And he indicated there are other task teams, but these 11 are national. And that's how I at least understood them to draw the distinction between the 11 and all other task teams in the country. So it is not the only national task team. It's one of 11. Is that your understanding as well?
Correct.
So the addition of the N to that acronym is just simply to indicate that it's one of the 11, not that it doesn't speak to who established it and therefore who can disestablish it. The reference to it being national, it's not in that context.
Not necessarily, but in a way it is so, because the budget, it indicates that the budget comes, it confirms, in other words, that the budget comes from there, and leadership of the National Political Killings Task Team, like in other national task team, come from national.
The leadership comes from national office. I don't understand. Please assist.
Well, of the NPKTT, the head of NPKTT is based at National Headquarters of Police.
But that's a recent appointment, I think 2 years ago. And he had been the head of PKTT all along, actually since its inception in 2018.
Yes, it confirms that what I'm saying, that the head of NPKTT has always come from, has always been a national figure or person.
Is that factually correct, Minister?
Factually,
Oh, factually.
factually correct.
And
When it was established, it was the Deputy National Commissioner who was the head of NPKTT. And after that, it was Deputy National Commissioner Detectives. And after that, when Kumalo got appointed, he was appointed from national, and he's national.
We'll flag that. We'll come back to that point. From the documents I have considered, my understanding is that is not a correct factual position that you are advancing. We shall come back to it, and I'll seek to have you persuade me that that is the case, and I shall attempt to do the same in return.
I will do
Persuade
the
you.
same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the moment, I would like you to turn your attention to in file two of the exhibits. And I'm drawing your attention to CJC 5.6, exhibit CJC 5.6.
5.6. Yes.
Page 50, starts at page 50.
Thank you, I have it.
At page 50, it's a briefing to the President of South Africa, investigation and prosecution of political related cases. It's dated the 16th of March, 2024.
I've got that.
And you, Minister, assumed office on
July.
July 2024. So this was about 3 months before you took office.
Correct.
Now, if you look at page 51, it sets out a summary of what the PKTT has done over the years, what it has achieved. I think that has been sufficiently ventilated. We don't have to deal in the detail. You are
Correct.
familiar with the
Correct.
content of page 51, all
Correct.
those statistics.
Correct.
You are familiar with them.
Correct.
And most importantly, at page 52 is a map of KZN depicting the hotspots regions on politically related cases. And as you would know, what we have at page 52 was the situation as at 2018 when the PKTT started its work. Do you agree with that?
Correct.
And overleaf then at 53 is the situation in KZN regarding politically motivated cases, and one sees a marked improvement, whereas there were, maybe more than about 15 hotspots by 2024, when a briefing is given to the president on the 16th of March. This is the state of KZN, where the majority of them are identified as stabilized regions.
Correct.
And one is highlighted as becoming stable.
Correct. Correct.
And if you go through that document, it deals with, it provides the graphs to demonstrate the progress that was being achieved year on year until the 2024, when they now were down to 2 against, let's say, 2018, where they had reached 58 in that year. Do you interpret the graph the same way I do?
58 cases.
In against 2018, if you look at just below the graph, there's a legend there. Blue indicates politically related cases. Red denotes murder other than politically related murder. So if we look against 2018, you see that at least on this page, 2018, I think it had the crisis had reached its boiling point because 58 politically motivated murders were recorded. And the last entry there of 4 and 2, respectively, green and blue, denotes that by 2024, 4 had been registered. And I say this speaks to the previous slide that demonstrates progress achieved over the 7-year period. You don't take issue with that graph, do you?
No issue, except to say you seem to be reading those figures as murders, whereas there are cases in the top squares. The murders are only below.
I've understood this to be politically related cases. So cases of murders which are defined as politically related. Am I misreading the graph?
Well, I know that when they write cases, sometimes they distinguish, maybe here they don't distinguish between murder, is cases murder or attempted murder.
Oh, in that context?
In that context. So,
Minister, please make that point with reference to the graph for me to follow.
I thought that when in the squares below, when they say total cases 2011 to 2015, it's 11 cases. All of those cases were murder cases. And when you go to 2016, there were 49 cases, 32 of which were actually murders. And then it goes on like that. This is what I was checking whether we're one there. That's my interpretation.
Advocate Silo, I think where the minister was, your reference to 2018 figures, you had said 58 murders. And the minister's point was that his reading of that graph is that there were 58 politically related cases, but 14 murders.
Of which the 14 were murdered?
Yes.
Yes.
So in other words, it was not 58 murders.
Okay. I will reflect that because there are quite a number of documents here. And I'll come back to the issue to demonstrate, or at least to seek to demonstrate that my interpretation is correct. And if it is wrong, I will really concede. Thank you, Minister. The minister pointed it out to me. I was suggesting that during the adjournment, I will relook at the documents that I have here to test that understanding. And if I am wrongly reading the graph, I will readily concede. But for the moment then, I ask us to turn to page 55. And page 55 is important because it puts in bullet point issues concerning motives for political killings. And bullet point 1 states prior and after any local government elections, prior and after any local elections, murder reported were mainly as a result of fighting over councillorship positions where candidate councillors are eliminated. The second bullet point speaks to infighting within branches and municipalities over positions between newly appointed councillors and old councillors. The third bullet point highlights the problem with elimination of ward and PR councillor of a municipality with the aim of decreasing numbers to be able to win over the municipality. And it goes. And let's look at the fourth bullet point, conflict between local municipality officials and traditional leadership over land disputes and corruption. And as I said, the list goes. Now, going back to General Masemula's conclusion, as you quoted in your statement, that the task team has exceeded the purpose for which it was established. I interpret that to mean that the issues listed in this page 55 that give rise to high incidence of politically motivated murders are successfully managed and under control. Is that your understanding as well?
Correct.
And not that they have been eliminated.
Correct.
So if the task team has been this successful, why disband it in circumstances where if one of the main contributors are the elections, why disband it where almost every 3 years we are either having national elections or local elections? So elections play a significant role in what spikes up politically related killings in KZN. Would it be wise to disband completely or to retain a force to ensure no further flare-ups?
That question, commissioners, take me directly to what the intention was, as opposed to a strong word, disband. It's integration, it's reconfiguration of PKTT, drafting the National Commissioner, just to make an example with an unrelated topic, when he was making submissions after, even from the 22nd, speaks about the National Political Killings Task Team being absorbed into serious and violent crimes. So if you look at it practically, the actual intention, all the time, it has been you transform, you absorb, because you have established a specialized task or you have established a specialized unit. Take what you have been doing in the PKTT, absorb it here. You are not throwing it away. You are not firing people. So that question is answered by practically what would happen. Practically what would happen is less of disbandment than actual absorption. That's the actual real issue that we were dealing with.
But would you accept, though, that even on that scenario, the focus on political killings would then be lost? The same focus that the Butterworth taxi killings has implemented to produce the magnificent results that we speak of. Once the focus is removed from that particular problem, then there is a risk of flare-up. Or you would not accept that as necessarily?
Let's separate the issues. The flare-up may or may not be there, but looking at the trends, flare-up may be there. But if you have structured yourselves such that you are able to contain those flare-ups, because it's not given automatically that all murder and robbery units throughout the country where they've been established, all except with Northern Cape, they are as weak as we found these units in the Eastern Cape. And there was a reason for that when we did more studies. But coming back to the topic, in KZN, you have serious and violent crimes, and under that, you have murder and robbery. And I haven't received the report that they are in the same weak state as just like those in the Eastern Cape. I have an example myself of, no, it's a wrong example. It's in the Eastern Cape once more. I don't have a report that suggests that murder and robbery and the killings team under murder and robbery is as weak as the taxi stop unit in the Eastern Cape is. Because I don't have a report that says so, I assume that we have a fully fledged, maybe still to be developed to higher levels of strength in KZN, especially if you were to say, okay, we agree, we integrate what we have in PKTT and what we have in murder and robbery and its subunits. I don't think that we could be speaking about any loss. I don't think we should be speaking about anything that would cause alarm, even in the community out there. And therefore, that would be, that's my understanding, and that would be my response to you.
Minister,
Yes, Commissioner.
Minister, on the back of that, when you made the decision to disband the PKTT, which you say you decided on the 29th finally, that you're going to disband the unit. What did you know at that point about the strength of the murder and robbery units, not just in KZN, because remember, this is a national task team, as you tell us. So it may be based in KZN, but it's a national team. What did you know about the strength of the murder and robbery units across the country at that time?
I knew that with the exception of Northern Cape, they had been established and that they were functional. We had not yet focused on what exactly in detail in Limpopo or in KZN or in Gauteng, but they were at different levels. What I know is that that was the only concern that was the only, I would say, issue that we need to beef up, we need to strengthen via a number of things, training, equipping. Myself, I was even talking about what we ended up doing in the structure itself, a new division, separate division from what's combined in Vispol, so that even those specialized units, you back them up, especially in the 4 provinces, because even by that time, December, I thought I had come to quite a satisfactory level of understanding the trends of violent crimes, especially in the 4 provinces. So I may not have known in detail, but I knew they exist in
Yes.
terms of reports that were presented.
Yes, you knew they existed. You disbanded on the basis that the work that the PKTT was doing can be done by murder and robbery units.
Yes.
That's the basis on which you disband.
Yes.
But you don't know anything about the strengths of those units in the country. So your decision to disband could possibly have the consequence that, in fact, the units that have been established can't do this work, because at that point, they don't have the capability yet. They haven't recruited the people. They don't have the right trained people. How is that a considered decision that ensures that investigations, prosecutions of political killings or political murders continue across the country after your decision on the 31st, from the 1st of January, actually?
Based on the reports, especially when we reviewed the structure with officials confirming that they exist, and it was actually written down, notwithstanding the fact that they were not necessarily individually examined, but based on those presentations and based on the absence which would have been made to say we do have, but it is weak or something, which was done in the case of Northern Cape to say it doesn't exist. And based on my visits as well to provinces, including, all provinces except for Free State and Northwest and Northern Cape, I would say I was fairly aware that they were there, and this was to be reinforced after
Yes.
the by information that I got.
I don't have a difficulty with a part of your evidence where you say you were told they do exist. I'm talking about their effectiveness and capability. And maybe let me do it by way of example. By the time you disbanded, you made the decision on the 29th of December to disband the PKTT. Had you had a discussion or a report from, and I use KZN randomly, I could be using Free State, so you can substitute. Had you had a report from KZN about the capabilities of their murder and robbery unit, their strength, their capability, and a general ability to deal with political killings? And when I say KZN, I'm asking the same question about Limpopo, Gauteng, Mpumalanga. Had you received any of those reports about their ability from the provinces themselves?
Now, I would say initially, when we were doing the review of the structure, we did receive a report of their existence. Now, we're talking beyond that. Now, we went to provinces, including KZN, including Limpopo, including Gauteng. We did find out and saw people that they are in murder and robbery. We did receive those additional reports, but I do want to say it was not necessarily to say we're in KZN today to examine just one unit, that is support services, for instance, or Vice Paul, it was not in that particular fashion, but we were satisfied with I was satisfied with the report of existence and what I had received or we had received when we visited those particular provinces. But I do want to add, not necessarily with a view to wanting to exonerate myself from that scrutiny by saying that even despite the fact that we had not gone into detail about what was happening, you remember that we were arguing yesterday that the letter of disbandment still called for preliminary reports. And indeed, when that report came, it did say, even though it had not come when we reported, it came later on the 22nd, it says, the National Political Killings Task Team in KZN would be absorbed into serious and violent crimes in KZN, which was evidence that it is known to exist. It may be at that strength or at another strength.
Maybe let me conclude it because I'm trying to understand what your answer is to my question. I'm going to ask it differently.
Yes.
Is there a record in the SAPS or in the ministry which shows whether it's a minute or of a meeting or a report, which shows that before you made the decision on the 29th of December, you were provided with information by the provinces about their readiness, which led to your decision that they are ready and able to take over, that murder and robbery in those provinces is ready and able to deal with the work that the Political Killings Task Team was doing? I'm asking that kind of simple question. That do we have verifiable evidence that you were provided with that information and you had that information when you made your decision that it is not necessary to have the PKTT because our murder and robbery units across the country are sufficiently capacitated at that stage to take over this important function?
There is the Marai report of March 2024. And over and above that, when we were reviewing the structure, we did get presentations. I may not be precise in terms of the level of detail on units, especially murder and robbery, in all provinces. But I know that there was confirmation, as I've said, of their existence, and no concern was raised at the time that they presented. There was a feeling that, or there were presentations that said, we do have.
Minister, I don't quarrel with their existence, and it's not my question. My question is not whether you satisfied yourself that they existed. It's not that. It's a completely different question. It is, you satisfied yourself because of information given to you that those units across the provinces are in a position to carry on the work that was being done by the PKTT. That's what I'm asking. But you've referred to the Marai report, so I'll leave it to Ms. Sillo to talk us through the Marai report and point us to where it says that. Thank you.
And also to when we're reviewing the structure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sillo.
Thank you, Commissioner. Minister, as you were engaging with Commissioner Baloyi, I went back to check on the graph. Remember the graph we had put up? and the correction you made. That is CJC 55.6 at page 54. I just wanted to confirm to you that I have checked the further documents and your interpretation is correct. I consider misinterpreted.
Thank you.
So that explanation you gave, I think is more fully articulated at page 51 of that annexure, just to place it on record. And in particular then for precision, at bullet point 5, that effectively is a narrative on that
Yes,
graph, and it supports your interpretation.
thank you.
Just to follow up on the point you, Commissioner Baloyi just engaged you on, I don't know if you are aware that General Mutsipe appeared before the commission and she has submitted a statement.
I am aware.
General Mutsipe, as I understand, is the component head of serious and violent crime, of which murder and robbery is a part. Is my understanding correct?
It's correct.
At her paragraph 20 of her statement, she noted that although the murder and robbery structure was in place, the units were not properly capacitated. That's her testimony. In fact, the very engagement you just heard with Commissioner Baloyi had with General Mutsipe. And during her testimony on the 17th of November, 2025, Commissioner Baloyi asked of General Mutsipe, General, when General Sibia tells you about the organizational structure that is there, and that the PKTT must now cease to operate and fall under murder and robbery, you conclude in that paragraph, that reference to paragraph 20, by saying all that was required for the murder and robbery units to be properly capacitated, but the structure was already...
Ms. Sillo, does the minister have this?
No, I'm just reading.
Oh, all right.
Just a little excerpt from the
All right,
transcript.
All right.
The first reference I made was to paragraph 20 of General Mutsipe's statement, where she says the structure was there, but there was no capacity. And she confirms that here in the hearing through her engagement with Commissioner Baloyi. So, according to the component head responsible for murder and robbery, as at the time of disbandment, that, can I call it a unit? Murder and robbery, yes, unit, did not have the capacity. The structure was in place, but there was no capacity. Hearing what you do now, do you think that disbanding the PKTT in circumstances where political killings could flare up ahead of the 2026 local elections was a wise decision?
Commissioners, in the context that I'll come exactly to your question, but I just want to say first a preamble. In the context of what would practically happen when you disband or when you reconfigure PKTT, it would mean in practice integrating what is there currently. You would take what is there in PKTT, what is there or not there in murder and robbery, because going together with the establishment of specialized units was to ensure that SAPS has greater capacity that is sustainable. So there is nothing preventing me from saying, yes, General Motsipe, component head, may have said that, but if in the process of integrating, you were not going to throw people and they become unemployed and all of that, you were going to integrate them. I have no doubt that this would result into the required capacity once integrated.
Minister, how do you arrive at that conclusion? Because you did not know how the integration would take place. So how can you say if the unit is disbanded or if the team is disbanded, then I know that it would result in the murder and robbery unit being properly capacitated? How do you arrive at that conclusion?
I arrived at that conclusion because in the reports and in the assessments, including implementation assessments, latest 2024, that's exactly what they were saying. That when we fully establish serious and violent crimes, that's why they even wrote qualification levels in the of people who must be recruited or whatever in the murder and robbery. Everything was there, payment, equipment, and all of those things. So reading that report, I know police knew what it would take to establish, and they had it written down and assessed twice. And I did say earlier, there was a letter, implementation letter in 2024, but which unfortunately National Commissioner did not sign for a year up until this year. He only signed in 2025 saying it must be expedited. It means that the implementation letter that was signed by all other officials, all other officers, except for the National Commissioner in 2024, they were satisfied that the specialized units have reached a point where they could, in their criteria, be functional. That's why they signed them for implementation, not establishment. And then they forwarded that to the Office of the National Commissioner, who then for a year didn't sign. So that's how you would have established that, or I established that. Go ahead.
So the implementation contemplates that there would be recruitments, for example, of people who meet certain criteria, right? To be in the murder and robbery unit, you have to meet certain criteria. You don't have, there's no information before you when you make the decision on the 29th that everyone that's in the PKTT meets that criteria. You didn't have that information, right?
In the PKTT?
Yes. What I'm trying to clear is you say there would be integration, reintegration.
Oh, yes.
No one is going to lose their job. And the impression it creates, Minister, and I don't know if that's the impression you're seeking to create, the impression it creates is that after you made your decision and instructed, from the 1st of January, everyone who was in the PKTT will neatly be slotted into the murder and robbery unit so that skill and experience would not be lost. That's the impression that your evidence is giving. Is that what you intend when you say they would be integrated and nobody will lose their jobs? Is that the impression you're seeking to create?
That's correct.
But that cannot be correct for two reasons. You don't know the qualifications of the people who are in the PKTT, whether they meet the requirements, the implementation requirements, as at the 1st of January. You have absolutely no idea about that. So you can't say to us, you knew that the people in the PKTT would all be integrated into the murder and robbery. You couldn't say that because you know nothing about their qualifications.
But I know that there is a report signed by all officials up to Deputy National Commissioner in 2024, signed for implementation.
Okay,
I know that.
okay.
And there's nothing that makes me doubt that all of these officials would have signed something that they were not satisfied is at the level that is required in terms of the prescripts of the work study before. But two, when National Commissioner signs in June 2025 now, so it's after my letter, he simply says it must be expedited. It doesn't say there must be any other thing. He says implementation must be expedited,
Yeah.
which when I read that, I assumed that he knew what he was doing, meaning that what had been signed in 2024 would be something that exists. It would be based on something that exists to their satisfaction up to Deputy National Commissioner.
So what we know is what the National Commissioner approves includes that expedite the recruitments, capacitating these units. That's part of it, right? We know that's what he's signing for. My point is, when you disband with immediate effect on the 1st of January, and please don't focus on immediate for now.
Okay.
It's a separate conversation altogether. When you say disband, you say people would be integrated into the murder and robbery unit. The simple point I'm making is, or that I'm seeking to establish with you, is that as of the date of your instruction, you don't know, Minister, sitting there at that time as you sign this letter and you send it off, you don't know whether your PKTT people will be integratable into the murder and robbery units in their different provinces. You don't know that.
No, I know it, Commissioner,
Okay.
because it was made abundantly clear during orientation
Okay.
what would need to happen.
Okay, we can leave it at that. That's your answer. Can I put to you that, well, General Sibia seemed to have understood things differently because he gave an instruction that everybody must just go back to their old stations. Every one of PK, that's what he said. His instruction is, so you seem to have had a different idea that people will be seamlessly integrated into the murder and robbery unit, but your divisional, your deputy National Commissioner for Detectives, I think that's what he is. His instruction is everyone who was in the PKTT, go home, go back to your stations. That's not to integrate them into the murder and robbery units in their provinces. So it seems you and General Sibia had different ideas about this. And for me, that's part of the problem that naturally follows from a failure to speak to your managers about your intention and how you see it playing out. That here's my thinking about it. You just gave an instruction, you let them execute. Well, Sibia does what he thinks is best. He calls for dockets, and then he says to people, go back to your stations. So their murder and robbery units in the provinces do not benefit from your decision on the basis of Sibia's instruction.
Now, the understanding that is written down black and white, including after the effect, was that they would be re-recruited, if I could use that, into serious and violent crimes, including in documents on the 5th and 6th. So this is now from the National Commission, not from SPEAR. What SPEAR subsequently says could loosely be interpreted as to say, if you were from Limpopo and you are in PKTT, in KZN, you would go back to your province, but to murder and robbery.
Minister, no. We can't do that. Please don't do that. CBS letter doesn't do that. It doesn't. It says, go back to your station. That's it. Please accept that's what it says. Let's not try and reconstruct it. He may come back. He will come and testify. Maybe he'll tell us what his
Yes.
intention was, but you
Yes.
cannot. You can't interpret it to suit your
I understand.
evidence now. It's just wrong to do that.
I understand, but my primary reliance is on the reports that we received, as I say, which indicate that members of PKTT would be absorbed into serious and violent crimes.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Ms. Silo, I think I took you very far from the question you had.
No.
I apologize.
It's still within theme. It's quite okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Perhaps then that just to close on this topic. You are aware, we have been talking about the IMC. On our records, and we don't have to go there, we have 8 minutes of the IMC meetings, which is the totality of number of meetings the IMC had, with the first being on the 21st of May 2018 and the last on the 5th of September 2023. I assume that you know that fact.
Yes, correct.
And I assume you know what the IMC discussed at each of those 8 meetings. Is it a fair assumption to make?
Correct.
And therefore, you will remember that at the meeting of the 21st of May 2018, which is the first meeting after the president has established the IMC, that the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal led the discussion about the problem in KZN, and that a presentation was made to the newly formed IMC. He was duly assisted in that regard by Major General Tilitza. Now, I don't intend to go too deep into this meeting, just to refresh your memory, because you said you are aware of the minutes and their content.
Yes.
No, they are not on record. They're not part of the bundle yet. But no, the only issue here, and the minister has assured me, if the minister hadn't seen them, then I would have stopped this question. But the minister has assured me that he's seen the minutes and he knows. In that presentation, it is stated to the IMC that a task team was established in 2011 to find the causes of political killings. You are aware?
Yes, I'm aware.
And I highlight that because I think earlier in your testimony, you had said this IMC established the political task team. So that contention has got to be wrong, because on its constitution, this IMC was told of an existing political killings task team that had been established since 2011.
What I know is that there was a task team that was established in 2011. There was another that was established in 2014. There was another that was established in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, which then on the basis of which then the PKTT took over. I know that.
I'll accept that, except I'm going by the minutes that you are very familiar with of the IMC. And I just wanted to highlight that at its first sitting, after the president had constituted the IMC, during a presentation by the Premier and the General Tilitza, is it? Yeah, I hope I'm not mispronouncing it. The IMC is informed of an existing political killings task team established in 2011. That's what they say in 2018. So the minute doesn't reflect any other.
Any other. I accept that.
Thank you. So then do you accept that any belief that the IMC, the 2018 IMC established the current PKTT is incorrect?
No, it is correct.
How?
It is correct because it is the IMC in 2018 that took the decision to establish a mechanism in line with the instruction of the president, a mechanism to contain the situation. And yes, that's my statement. It is correct.
And that's why I refer you to that minute, because if you read that minute together with the minute, and now you're forcing me to go and compile a pack of these minutes, perhaps, with the minute of the 3rd of August, 2018, of the same IMC, you understand that the political killings trust team established in 2011 was what was operative at the time. And that is what the IMC was engaging with. It's only in August, when new engagements were had, that a debate about the effectiveness of this team as was constituted, how effective that team was. And it was accepted it is not, it requires reconstitution, and that was from the SAPS perspective. And SAPS went and reconstituted its already existing 2011 team together with a strategy and presented to the IMC in September. And the IMC approved the strategy. In none of those minutes, I suggest to you, is there a claim that the IMC established any task team? You are not willing to accept that for the moment.
Not willing, because they were specifically asked or requested or instructed to establish a mechanism. But I can't deny that in the process of doing that, implementing that, they discovered that there had been various teams established before, as I indicate the years, but they were not as effective as the situation required them to do in 2018. And on the basis of the discussion, they then established, but it was no longer the same. And that one that had been established in 2016 had been established, I think, by the commissioner of police at that particular time. So they assessed. I'm not denying that there was something that was there. All I'm saying is that by 2018, in whatever form it existed, it was no longer, or it was not seen to be containing or equal to the challenge that was there.
Yes.
Hence, then the establishment of a new outfit.
Okay, I'm staying with the same minute, the very first minute of IMC of the 21st of May, 2018. And in that minute, decisions are reflected under the heading decisions. The meeting resolved that, 1, the task team coordinate its work and minimize working in isolation of each other, because that was one of the problems that was identified with the 2011 task team. And the task team should develop an investigation and prosecuting strategy that will mitigate all the risk factors associated with investigation and prosecution. So the task team is being instructed here and being given responsibilities, and in particular to go develop that strategy. And that minute reflects the task team receiving that instruction to be the existing 2011 task team, unless, well, that's the minute that informs me. So, Minister, I can only go by what the minute tells me. Will you? And you still maintain your position. I won't persist if you do.
Yes, I would maintain the position that there was a task team that was established in 2016, not just 2011.
Okay.
And if the minutes don't reflect that, like you, I would be willing to correct myself. But so far, I'm maintaining that there was a task team established in 2011. There was another, I think 2014 and then 2016.
And
But 2016 there was.
And what happened in 2018 when IMC was formed? Did they establish a 4th task team?
What they did was to merely inform those who were in that task team to say there is now a new instruction, a new initiative. We are now doing 1, 2, 3. And that's what happened. They were not like told you are now formally go home and so on.
Yes.
But they were told, look, there's now an instruction to establish a new setup. And it's going to be done like this and this. Those who were invited were invited. Those who were not invited were not invited.
At some point in your response, I thought we actually were closer than we started, because I understood you to mean that the 2016 task team is the one that was in place, that then the IMC instructed to develop a new strategy. Did I understand you correctly? Or are you suggesting that the IMC established its own task team? That's where I think we're missing each other.
It established what I would say its own part, building from what they found there in 2016, maybe in more detail, in whatever form that they saw fit, and they did it. But there was recognition that there is something that was there, but it doesn't meet the expectations, and doesn't have the capacity, or is not positioned to deal with the new challenge.
I will then provide the full minutes, and then I'll leave it to the commissioners to test as to which is the correct interpretation of the minutes. Is it yours as you have articulated, or mine as I've placed on record? The commissioners will decide in the fullness of time. I want now to turn your attention to exhibit file 2.2. So good.
What page?
In particular, I want us to start at CJC 55.8, starting at page 74. Page 74. Now, from page 74, Minister, presentations to the Interministerial Committee. Sorry, the first being on the 3rd of August 2018, as appears at page 74. They are quite extensive, and unfortunately, they are not individually marked. But if you go to page 120, once again, it's a briefing for 2018. 13 September 2018, my apologies.
Page 120.
120.
Yes.
And if you go to page 142, it's for the 28th of March 2019.
Yes.
And once again, at 161, it's for the 30th of July 2019.
Yes.
At 176, it's for 2nd of June 2021.
Yes.
And 196 is 2nd of February 2022.
Yes.
And the last one is page 211, 6 September 2023.
Yes.
They are very detailed briefing presentations with statistics and everything that I would suggest the IMC needs to be kept abreast of to enable the IMC to take appropriate decisions. Would you agree with me in that regard? We don't have to consider the content, because if you haven't, I apologize, but I think you assured the commissioners that you are familiar with the content of all these briefing documents.
Yes.
I want instead then to refer you to Please just give me a second to find my place. The last minute, which was of the 6th of September, 2023. Right here, yes, and that is Exhibit CJC 55.5, and it starts at page 24 of the same file. Have you located it, Mr. Minister?
I'm trying to locate it.
CJC 55.5, and it starts at page 24.
Not that page 24. I have that.
And this is, should be headed in your file as minutes of the JCPS Interministerial Committee, Political Killings in KZN. It's dated the 5th of September, 2023. And I don't have to go through the detail as well. It was, the meeting discussed in detail the issues around the political killings in KZN. I want specifically, because of time, to ask you to turn to page 49 of that document. No, let's start at 48, please. And this, at this meeting of September 2023, which happened to be the last meeting before the 2024 elections, at 48 is a summary of various remarks by members of the IMC. And as at September 2023, insofar as the PKTT is concerned, if I want to draw your attention specifically to bullet point 3, at that time, the committee, as Minister Taylor expressed, appreciated the importance of dedicated courts for political related cases. So as at September 2023, the thinking was to take it a notch further, actually dedicate courts for these kind of problems. The next bullet point, bullet point 4, records Deputy Minister Matale indicated that he agrees with recommendations of task team and the team should be enhanced. Do you see that?
I see that, correct.
I understand Deputy Minister Matale is also your current Deputy Minister.
Correct.
The next bullet point notes that Minister Cele indicated that the task team is involved in the investigation of Fort University, I take it's Fort Hare University, and 8 arrests were made. And if I then jump to bullet point, the second bullet point from the bottom, Minister Lamola commended the task team about their good work, and he indicated that the progress is indeed visible. Then it deals with other issues regarding Kwagogo. I think it was the prison, if I'm not sure, but we can skip that. But now I want to draw your attention to page 49. Under specifically resolutions, the last bullet point reflects as follows, or it notes the following. The task team cannot be dissolved. It must continue. That is the decision of the IMC in September 2023. You take office in July 2024. And in December 2024, you take the decision that it must be disestablished, technically dissolved. Please explain to the commissioners what objective or scientific information you had to support that decision in circumstances where a year earlier, your own colleagues, after 7 years of engagement with this process, had come to the point where they specifically take as a resolution that the task team cannot be dissolved and it must continue. What changed between September 23 and December 24?
Commissioners, I have indicated a number of those changes. One, in 2023, 2024, and then later on up to where we are, there was a marked decrease in political matters in KZN, starting from 2023, where you registered an estimate, I think we have the same figure here, of about 11 by 2023. And then going down to 7. And then I think in March this year, it was 1. There could have been another additional. So that's the first reason, starting from 2023, 2024. But the second one, I did indicate you are now in a position to implement that work study and processes that followed, and now reinforced by the review of the organogram, which is the exercise that we went into in 2024 and endorsed and even added new features to fight crime, murders. But we're now doing it with another perspective to say the problem in South Africa is murders. It's not, yes, you could categorize murders into political, but the general call and the general outcry in South Africa is murders. It doesn't categorize whether of old people or young people, whether kunaloko or something that is distinct in the national call is murders of women and children. But generally, the call in the 7th administration, when we come in, it says reduce murders in South Africa. It doesn't say reduce political killings. It says murders. So we have to listen to that. It says the murders are the face of crime in South Africa. In other words, you have crime, all categories of crime, but the face that attracts everybody in the world and makes everybody fear for their lives and is murders, the rate of murder in South Africa, which is reflected by figures year on year. And at some point, I think 2023, 24, reaching 27,000, if not 27,800, something like that. And in KZN alone, reaching at some point 6,000 per annum, but getting down to 5,000, the last figure that we have. So that is, the focus shifted, not to say exclusively, but inclusively, inclusive of the figure that PKTT doesn't deal with. And that is the murder of people, which happens to be a way higher than those that the PKTT is dealing with. Now, we couldn't not respond to that. We had to respond to that to say, so the call for SAPS ministry is to deal with murders in South Africa. Hence, the meeting that we called, I think on the 21st in Kivskruol in Pretoria, just to deal with murders, just to deal with firearms, especially illegal ones, and just to deal with drugs. And I may as well add that meeting was followed up in June, but in relation to drugs and firearms. So there is that shift of emphasis in the new administration, which doesn't necessarily look down upon the resolution. But it says integrate. It says recognize that there are these people that fall outside political killings, so that the national clamor, the national focus should now be on matters, all of them, especially in the 4 provinces, because figures were instructing, were demanding that kind of attention. So I did indicate that, and even added that you could walk among people as Minister of Police, but when you are alone, you reach home, you know that what you should be dealing with is the outcry in the country of matters in the country, including matters in KZN, other than just those that are political. So I can go on and on, for which you needed a budget, and then want to scrap here and there, just to fulfill this mandate, to meet this demand. It is a huge demand.
Yes.
Yes.
Chair, if I may just encroach on the Commissioner's lunch hour for 2 minutes, so I can just close this topic. Yes, thank you. You raised a number of points, Minister, and amongst them, and I think it's a point that you've consistently raised at various points, and you always make reference to the 7th administration. Why do you seek to draw that distinction?
It's because each and
And
every,
in brief,
okay,
yes.
each and every administration would have what they would refer to as their top priorities or priorities.
Okay. So it follows the 6th administration, which was under the leadership of President Ramaphosa,
Yes,
as well as the 7th.
correct.
Am I to then understand from your response that when President Ramaphosa called for a targeted response to political killings in KZN, he was either not aware of the high murder rate in South Africa in general, or he was wrong in his approach? Where do I land?
He was correct in his approach because there was a consistent flare up of this category of matters. And in his view, and by and large, in the view of people in KZN, something needed to be done at that time about this category of matters or assassinations. So he was correct.
So,
But he was aware of matters generally in South Africa and in KZN, matters outside this. He was aware.
now, he established this IMC for that purpose,
Yes,
which is chaired by the Minister of Police.
yes.
You come into office, you automatically become its chair. Did you call for the IMC to engage the IMC on what you consider the changed circumstances, and therefore to go back to the president and say, the steps we have taken, we are going to suggest be wound down? Did you take that approach?
No.
Why not?
We have said in the year, let me just call it the year, 2024, 2025, the IMC on political killings doesn't reflect. And therefore, we were, for instance, appointed as co-chair. I was appointed as co-chair of the JCPS instead. So there was no IMC to go to talk about that matter that you're referring to.
And lastly, what had disestablished, if I can use that term, the IMC?
Well, it simply was not.
Sorry, can I just conclude?
Okay.
Because in my understanding, when it was constituted, it identified not the incumbents of the various offices, but it was
Yes.
the Minister of Police, the Minister of Justice, and it listed the ministers.
Yes,
And I interpreted that to mean it shall be those ministers, meaning whoever occupies that office at that time becomes part. Now, you are suggesting that at some point that structure of ministers was disestablished. When was that and by what?
what I'm saying, no, first, my understanding is that if you look at the list of IMCs over years, others would simply not be there, would not reflect in the Gazette. Not because there was a meeting that was called to say you are being disestablished. They will simply not be there either by cabinet or by the president. Now, in 2024, as of February this year, there wasn't any political killings, IMC on political killings where all other IMCs for the same period are reflecting. And therefore, we would discuss issues of security in JCPS as we did on Volume Code and other matters.
Thank you, Minister. We'll use the lunch hour to try and understand and locate.
No, let's carry on.
Oh.
We had decided that we would take a 45
Minute lunch.
minute lunch.
Okay.
And we meant to adjourn at 1 until 1:45. Now let's go on to 1:15.
Till 1:15.
Yes.
Let's see how much time. 7 minutes.
You want to carry on this topic?
No, I was just saying, I need to perhaps consider the minister references a gazette regarding IMCs. So just to try and locate that gazette. And as soon as we are wiser, we'll pick up that topic again.
Can I understand the last part, Minister, of what you said about the Gazette and other IMCs being there and others not being? Are you, what does it mean? Are you saying there's a Gazette that was published which has all the IMC and in there we will not find this IMC? Is that what you're saying?
Precisely what I'm saying is that whether gazetted or not gazetted, the list that I have, that I've brought to the commission, reflects a number of IMCs in line with what has happened in the other years. But in that list of February this year, the IMC on political killings doesn't reflect.
Okay. What according to you should have happened for this IMC to have continued existence beyond 24? Are you saying the president was required to do a new act and reconstitute? Is that what you're saying? And let me tell you why I'm asking. It's because so far, my understanding has been that you, as the new minister, would have continued from where these left off and convened a meeting, because the IMC is not individuals, it is the office. So at any one time, it doesn't matter who's the minister in office. So now you're the new minister, you are the one that was supposed to convene it. Then it would come into life, have its own meeting, continue actually from where they left off in 23. That's how I've always understood the evidence before us. Are you saying that, in fact, it's the president's fault that you haven't done anything as an IMC because he's not reconstituted you?
I am not saying so. I am simply saying, if you take the list of IMCs as of February 2025, the IMC on political killings doesn't reflect where other IMCs reflect. That's my statement. I'm not blaming anyone.
Okay, the list that you are referring to that you say you have, is it of this year? Did you say it's a February this year?
Yes.
Okay. There surely must be a list of last year of the IMCs as it last. There could not have been a vacuum.
23, 24.
Yes. And what does that say?
There are 2 years when it appears. I think it appears 22, 23, 23, 24. If not, yes, I think there are those two that appear. But 24, 25, it doesn't appear as of February this year.
So 20, you have 23, 24, 25, or you have 23. That list is for which period?
This one it would be 24, 25.
And there must be a 23-24
There must be.
that would have a list of the.
There must be.
IMC.
I think in my bundle, I did have a list of IMCs and years against them.
Okay, maybe then to come back, let me rather leave that and come back to the question that I wanted to ask. I understood your evidence yesterday about your philosophy. There shouldn't be any hierarchy, false hierarchy. You said there's a false hierarchy. Some matters seem to be treated more importantly than others. And murder is murder. That's what your language, and they should all come under murder and robbery units.
Correct.
That's correct? My understanding.
Correct.
That's your evidence. And when you were discussing the statistics over time last year, yesterday rather, as you were talking through the statistics, I did ask you what is the purpose of that exercise, because I wanted to understand what importance are you attaching to the stats that show murder over time, over a number of years. Now, if your philosophy, and I'm prepared to accept, Minister, that as a new executive member, Minister of Police, you're entitled to bring to bear in the cabinet a completely different philosophy. So I do accept that if you differ with what your colleagues have done over time in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have two issues about it. The one is you hold a different view. Murder is murder. It must mean that you do not agree with the original idea that distinguished political murders from other murders. It must be. When the president decided, and you may not be the only one, maybe he was wrong, let me say that, to make that distinction, but it must mean that you don't agree with the original idea, because according to you, murder is murder. It's a fair proposition to make to you.
Not exactly. I'll state why.
Yes.
In 2018, there was a recognizable flare up or pattern, let me call it pattern, of murders or assassinations of local government-based politicians in KZN. It became a pattern, discernible, clearly. It led to an outcry that something needed to be done, and the president went down and he did that something. I agree with that. Now, fast forward, SAPS recognize that there is need to deal with certain categories of crime on a specialized basis, on a focused, sustainable basis. But it, at the same time, needs to be integrated instead of loose teams, each on their own, uncoordinated. Then they establish what they call serious and violent crimes, under which they establish murder and robbery, under which they then establish a number of these, but coordinated under one component and under one section. One of them is political killings. So it's not a matter to say, while it is true what the commissioner is saying, that I strongly believe that murder should be treated as murder, and murder is murder. There shouldn't be murders of elite treated this way, murders of what you would call normal or ordinary people. Let's treat murder as murder in terms of investigations and other matters. But that doesn't mean that police should not establish and develop expertise on something that they know. That's why you have various sub-teams, but organized in larger or bigger, I would say, units, in the form of sections, in the form of components, and so on. It's done that way. So cater for them, but in a different setup that you can sustain even in your organogram.
Okay.
That's
So
the difference.
two things from that, from
Yes.
what you're saying now. You have no difficulty or philosophical problem with having a unit that looks at political killings, as long as, according to you, that unit is not a standalone, it falls under murder and robbery. So it's where it is housed that you have an issue with. Not that there's a team whose only focus is political killings.
Not at all, because if you integrate them in that particular way, you budget for them properly each and every year because
Don't go there.
Yes,
No,
okay.
don't go to the.
Yes, I don't
administrative-
have.
You don't have a difficulty. Your
Yes.
difficulty in this case is the PKTT doesn't fall within the murder and robbery unit. Rather, the team that is focusing on political killings
Correct.
doesn't fall within murder and robbery.
It's a silo.
Yes, that's your difficulty.
Correct.
With it.
Correct.
That being the case, I'm told it's got a past. Can I ask my question? You don't have to answer it, and then we can take it back we can take it up when you come back. My question is, that being the case, why could you not discuss that with the National Commissioner instead of making the decision the way you did? Why didn't you have a conversation with the National Commissioner that I want political killings to now be conducted under murder and robbery, make the necessary changes? Why couldn't that be done? You can answer when we come back. The chair is shutting me down. It's shutting both of us down.
Okay.
Let us adjourn and resume at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Chair.